Well, hello there, and welcome to another Book Watch with Swissley. I am your phone boy Davey, and this show's all about Tyranids. Okay, guys, I'm going to be real with you. It was not a strong week. Um, yeah, we won that GT last week, and this week it's been rough. We're a bit like Manchester United if you're a football fan. We won a trophy last weekend, but this week we've kind of been beaten 7-0. However, I have pulled out some of the interesting lists from this week and a very interesting one from next week, which I'm excited to go through it with you. Right. Also, some plugs because that's what I'm supposed to do, guys. Number one is that I'll be recording a battle rap tonight. In fact, with the wonderful Tom Lohman, he'll be taking Drakari against Mark Parker's Tyranid GT winning list from last week. So very excited to use it. I had a bit of a play with it last night against Guard. It went okay, but hopefully I've got a bit more of a grasp on it this time. I'm also taking it to an RTT this weekend, so I will try and do a diary talking about how the games go. Also, subscribe to 6 if you're not already. Why wouldn't you? It's awesome. There's so much good content coming out at the moment, and especially like Chris's Heroic Interventions video, Tom's List Doctor stuff. If you're a Dirty Tau player, you've got Expanding Empires with Aaron. You've got the UKTC and me with Ed. I mean, guys, we are pumping out content like a Tervigan pumps out termagants. Anyway, let's get on with the lists. Let me know what you think of the lists in the comments. Give the video a like as well. All right, on with the lists. All right, list number one is from Peter Nordhus, representing Team Norway at the Norsehammer Open 2023, and it was GW-ish layouts, is what I can gather from the terrain from the competition pack. Peter came third out of 38, which is well done, high fives. But this is probably the best performance we've seen this week. He went 2-3-0. So he drew 3 games as they were playing WTC scoring out of 20. So let's quickly go through the list. We've got double hive tyrants. Oh yeah, with the different guns. We like it. With the relic guns. It seems to be becoming a little bit of a staple, at least Shard Gullet is. The Bilthorn Cannon coming into a lot of lists that we see doing quite well. We've got double Tervigan as well. That's a bit of a twist. The first one has direct guidance. Now, it's a bit of a funny one, this, because both Tervigans give +1 to a Termagant unit within, I think it's 6 inches of them, or within synaptic link range. So I'm not sure who that +1's going on, because I believe it's only core. So it might be the Tyrant Guard, I suppose. It's also got adrenal glands to get those. Both of them have adrenal glands, I should add, to get their massive scything talons up to strength 8, which means they wound Marines on 4s. So a very big consideration at the moment. The second Tervigan has the Maw-Claws of Thyrax and heightened senses, because this person hates not having successful wounds. So the Maw-Claws give it reroll wounds, heightened senses gives it fight first and reroll hits. So very nice indeed. Of course, when you eat a unit as well, you get an extra attack with the Maw-Claws. So just an interesting bonus there. I tend to find that it's just really useful for re-rolling wounds, if I'm quite honest. Obviously, we've got 2 Tervigans. What does that mean? We've got 2 squads of 30 Termagants, so for 60 in total. They are just kitted out as normal. We've got 2 Pyrovores who are probably screening, putting up banners, things like that. We also have 3 Tyrant Guard to protect those Hive Tyrants. And we have 2 Morlocks with biostatic rattles for just being a pain in the butt. And then we have a Harpy with 2 Venom Cannons, because 235 points is something you can spend. It is. Remember, guys, can we just take a step back and go, remember the old days when that was like 170 points? So dreamy. So how do we wrap all this list up? Well, it is Gorgon, and it has territorial instincts. So this is your weekly monsters have obsects list does very well. So we have the Morlocks obviously sneaking in the obsec there. We've got the Tervigans with obsec taking the center of the board, and we have the Hive Tyrants as probably a second wave after the Tervigans, I suppose. This list is really interesting because you don't tend to see territorial instincts with Gorgon. It does like monsters because Gorgon always wounds on 4s, so you really benefit from having low strength attacks because you'll wound anything with toughness 5 or 6 on 4s if you're attacking them with Hormagaunts or Termagants, etc. Obviously, monsters tend to have a high strength, so it doesn't tend to work together. However, you can get some benefit from the Termagants, shooting their guns at stuff. You've also got it from the Tyrant Guard as well, which is also cool. So yes, that's interesting. So a couple of things I've noticed about this. First of all, the event's very cool. They have a pub quiz on the Friday. That's pretty sweet. Obviously, Peter went 6th out of 38. However, when you look at the scores, as BCP allows you to do, Peter has the same problem all of us Tyranid players have at the moment. It's difficult to score. He came 28 out of 38 on scores. Now, it's WTC scoring, so it's a little bit wishy-washy, but it's just very interesting to point out. We don't dominate games. We pip them. And that's because we score relatively low compared to other factions. And we have to deny them scoring at the same time. The way that Peter's doing it in this list, and it's absolutely true, absolutely great, is with the Termagants, right? He's going to take away their primary, but he's also going to get 12s where he could have got 8s, or get 8s where he could have got 4s by reviving those Termagants with the Tervagan in the command phase. Also, the Morlocks will deny a bit of primary by getting their big toe - big tail onto objectives. So yeah, that's how it's scoring, really. I think with secondaries, we're quite open to Warp Ritual here because we've got all those Psychers. We've got banners, which we can do with the Pyrovores at a push the Termagants because they're probably not going to be arranged to shoot turn 1. And we also could probably take a kill secondary. The big focus here, though, is that denying primary. Personally, I'd like to see a little bit more behind enemy lines play here. I know the Morlocks do it, but in a Melter meta, I think it's pretty rough because, Melters absolutely will melt through a Morlock. And I hear they're pretty popular nowadays. Anyway, well done to Peter for coming 6th. And let's move on to the next list. Guys, I know I said I wouldn't do an RTT. I know I said it. I did. I said it. However, this week was pretty rough. So I decided to look at a couple of people who did go to RTTs and won them. So big shout out to Richard Kilpatrick, who came 3-0, who went 3-0, came first out of 13. Also, a shout out to Borden Smith, who also went 3-0 at the Slice and Dice Winter Showcase RTT with a Leviathan Tervagan list with 2 Tyrannofexes. So congratulations to him. But we're going to look at Richard's list. He was at Matt's Mega Madness tournament the first. I'm unsure on the terrain because there wasn't a terrain pack. This is using something that I've been using recently. It's probably one of my favorite lists to play. I'm not sure it's the best one, if I'm honest, but it is good. It's pretty good. I think I do think Mark's list has got a little bit more play, but I've been personally very much enjoying a list similar to this. So it is Gorgon with naturalized camouflage for the +1 to the armor save when you benefit from cover. So these Tyrant Guard, for example, can sit in a terrain piece and just be on 0 up saves, which is very nice. Even Hormagaunts go down to 3 ups if they're in terrain, which is very nice. So let's quickly go through it. We've got 2 squads of 3 Tyrant Guard. That's going to allow the Swarm Lord and the Hive Tyrant to have a bit more flexibility in the game, move up and actually cause a threat. I think the Swarm Lord, and I'm definitely guilty of this, is a character that tends to sit back and buff everything rather than get involved. The Swarm Lord can slap, man. It's not bad. It's not amazing, but it can do some real damage in games, especially with Gorgon, because you do struggle into things like knights. So Swarm Lord can chop a knight up, which is very nice. Then we go into after those 2 squads of 3 Tyrant Guard in the North Force Org slot, go into HQ. So we've got Hive Tyrant. He's got Shard Gullet because you don't leave home without it now. It's the new Reaper of Obliterax. We've got the Swarm Lord, and we have a Neurothrope. The Neurothrope has the Warlord trait Direct Guidance to give +1 to hit. And we also have a Tervagan. The Tervagan, very interestingly, has hypermorphic biology. What does that do? Well, it gives it +1 toughness. So it goes up to toughness 9. Pretty nice. It also gives it acts as double wounds when bracketed. So, you know, this Tervigon's going to actually do a bit of work for a while. Very nice. So let's get into the troops. Obviously, we've got the Tervigon, so we get the 30 Termagants to go with it. And we also have 3 squads of 14 Hormagants with Toxin Sacks. The Toxin Sacks work very well with Gorgon because you can spend a CP to auto wound on 5s. Very nice. Going into elites, we have a Lictor, Paravor, and 3 Venomthropes. Obviously, the Lictor, Paravor are going to do probably utility tasks, so, you know, doing the dishes, hoovering, things like that. No banners, obviously, and maybe even behind enemy lines, screening, all that kind of jazz. We have 3 Venomthrope, not Thropes because I can't spell properly, and they're obviously going to give everything the -1. -1 to hit bubble, but what I found in lists like this is they work really well as like a second wave, so they can get up there along with the Hive Tyrants, make things fight last, that could probably charge the Hive Tyrant or the Tervigon, etc. So very, very good in a list like this, full of Termagants and Hormagants. And then lastly, but not leastly, we've got Parasite Mortrex with Alien Cunning for the OBSEC 5, stealing objectives all day long. Okay, so this list really is similar to the one you find on the Gorgon Discord thread. It's very good on things like GW terrain because you can actually sit in the terrain and be shot. On UKTC, for example, though, it's not as great because lots of obscuring, which means that you're going to sit in the terrain. You're not going to get shot anyway because they can't see you. So you don't benefit from that extra AP, extra armor in terrain. However, it would be quite nice against the mortar spam that we see in guard, but it's a very niche case. I'm not sure it's worth necessarily building into. So I assume this is a kind of GW terrain. Personally, I've been enjoying a version of this list, but without the Tervigon and Termagants. It's one of the other ones on the Gorgon Discord thread at the moment, which is quite cool. I think it just swaps it for things like Gene Stealers. I've put in the Pyrovore, 6 Pyrovores in a Tyrannosite, just for that reach and that pre-game, you know, that turn 1 Alpha Strike-ish attack. So that's another option you can go with. So in terms of this list, though, what is it scoring? Obviously, we're great with things like Warp Ritual. Like the last list, we can go into the middle and sit there for 3 turns with relative ease. We've got banners in there with all the different utility pieces. We've got behind enemy lines, which is very doable here. And you can even, and there's a bit of a chat in the Discord about this. You can even lean on a bit of cranial feasting if needs be. Some people think it's very easy to score cranial feasting. Some people don't think it's very easy to score cranial feasting. I think it's kind of like having a chair in your spare room that's kind of broken, but in a pinch, you'll get it out if you've got friends over and you'll sit on it and hope it just still works. You know, you'll get it out. You'll be sitting with your friends talking. You're going to like lean on it a little bit to make sure you don't fall off it or it doesn't break. You're going to hear it creak every so often and you're going to panic and you're going to be like, oh my God, this was a disaster. I have an idea. And it's going to make you uncomfortable. It might break, or you might kill their warlord and gain a CP at the same time and score 9 victory points. Who knows? But to be quite honest, it's likely better than Warp Ritual against something like Grey Knights or Sisters. So I do think it is a flexible thing you can potentially do. Cool. But well done to Richard for coming 3-0 and also, for coming first with a 3-0. And also well done to Borden Smith, who did the same at the Slice and Dice. All right. Next list. So that was all the lists actually I'm going to look at for last week. Let's look at a list for next week. So we have Eric Lund's Beast Coast Invitational list. And this was very interesting because it is a custom hive fleet. Oh yeah, you don't see them very often, but when you do, you have to read it because I'm super interested in people's ideas. So very interesting one, in my opinion, because it's kind of like a pressure list. So you know the orc list that goes around at the moment, which is about pinning your opponent into their deployment zone, stopping them scoring, and if they do table you, it's too late. You've scored all the points, you've won the game. I feel like this is trying to do a similar thing. However, we're not quite as durable as orcs. Our stuff just dies. But there's a lot of bodies here, and I think there's a lot to be said about it, and I'd love to see how it goes. So I'll be definitely watching for the results next week. So let's have a look at it. It's a custom hive fleet with synaptic goading and territorial instincts. Both of these amazing at denying obsec. because we've got 60 obsec bodies in gaunts, but we also have 5 obsec monsters too, which all count as 5 bodies. So we are taking the board from our opponent, hopefully, and making it very difficult for them to score primary in at least the first 3 turns. The Synaptic Gorgon gives you a pre-game move of 6 inches for your gaunts, so a lot of those Hormigans could potentially even get first turn charges if you were so inclined. However, they're not buffed up, so they might just die. So there is that angle of just road blocking your opponent and stopping them scoring 10 Hormigans at a time. Especially against knights or something like this, like that, you could try and do the old what people were doing with biovores is shooting spore mines and stopping knights moving forward. You could potentially just do that with Hormigans, which is quite cool. There is a Hive Tyrant here, flying Hive Tyrant without any Tyrant Guard, which makes me a little nervous. Unless, of course, this person, Eric, knows the terrain layout. Maybe there's a big piece of terrain you can hide behind, or maybe even started in reserve, which is you could potentially do that. You wouldn't benefit from your Synaptic Imperative turn 1, but potentially, give yourself that, that deep strike. I'm just looking. Actually, there's nothing you could shoot with to get the shard lure off, so it would be a 9-inch charge. So a bit of a tricky one, but very interesting nonetheless. What else have we got? We've got in terms of psychics, in terms of secondaries, we've got Warp Ritual by the Broodlord. You can forward deploy. You can guard him with Hormigans and Gargoyles and things like that to make sure that she stays alive. You've also got the Winged Hive Tyrant as a backup there if you need it. This list has the capability for banners. Obviously, with all the bodies, it can do R&D as well. It can probably do behind enemy lines pretty well, as long as you can get into their deployment zone without charging or overrunning. You can even potentially take engage with this if you like punching yourself in the face and stressing yourself out. But I think the big ones here, Warp Ritual, potentially banners is probably what I would take. Maybe R&D actually, depending on the matchup, and behind enemy lines. We've also other things that are interesting in this list. We've got 2 Exocrines to shoot the ever-living you-know-what out of your opponents. So it's a bit of it has a right mix of threats here. So you're going to hold your opponent back, pin them back in their deployment zone, move everything else up, take the mid-board, and hopefully deny them scoring any primary. So best of luck to Eric going into this weekend. I'm sure that this will be an interesting list, and I'm keen to see how it performs. Okay, guys, that's it for this week. Well, thank you very much for watching and potentially listening. It's a bit of a rough one after the week before, the highs of the week before and the lows of this week. But a big thank you to all the generals I featured today. Well done your performance in a rough week. I hope all of you going into this weekend's games, I hope you have the best games. I hope we win a GT. I hope I win an RTT. That would be nice. But I'll be thinking of all of you and giving you the best of luck that I can. I'm crap at ending episodes. Anyway, have a great week and or weekend. Bye.